I suppose now is as good a time as any to share a little bit where I came from, starting with brutal stuff that occurred after my old life was lost. I'm not sure if anyone's really interested or not, but I'm sure I would be interested in knowing, based on some of the stories or references that have been raised. So we'll start with 2 years ago, July 25th, 2022, I had my first piano YouTube channel going. I had started it March of that year, where I also kind of used marijuana, cannabis, to kind of give me enough kind of confidence to post myself on the internet. I don't know, I was very self-conscious of it at the time. So I hadn't used any kind of substance for like 8 years. And so anyway, months go by, there wasn't really anything happening. The channel was just really sloppy. I use a lot of the material from it now, though. I trim the junk and actually have a lot of really neat gems on there, you know. But anyway, I was a caretaker, and for 15 years I was just tasked with kind of like keeping guard, taking care of the people's dogs, making sure everything was clean, doors locked, errands, night watch, things like that, and then entertaining the children, that kind of thing. So I had ample time to do basically whatever I wanted, and it was a lot of studying, a lot of reading, training, things like that. I made a life out of discipline. So, and I'll get into that too, like my mindset framework, where my spiritual history, religious identities, things like that. And then, but yeah, I had been a novelist before that, trying to write, like, kind of hoping it would, get turned into a movie. I could become the actor, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I guess it's all lofty. It's still lofty. My mindset, and this is probably key, but
yes, my friend,
I do not
but I'm not
want
gay
to
or even bisexual.
live. I'm not necessarily. I've been suicidal.
Definitely a woman in many
I have no interest in life. There is absolutely nothing that brings me joy. I have no hope or desire for a future. I've cursed God many times in ways that would probably disturb a lot of people if they knew the rage that I felt when I, that I went on this long in life, that I've lived this long. My goal has always been just to get famous and or make a legacy, a good one, and then to pass on. When I was younger, I used to care a lot about the afterlife, like everybody. I mean, most people have probably given it some thought. But I can't say even going into like some higher astral plane, or maybe becoming like a causal being, or merging with the one, or like the new one is just that you continue as you are, but everything is just more thought-based and instantaneous. Pure joy, pure love, blah blah. So whatever the case is, none of these things have any value to me. Sometimes I think they're gloomy. A lot of it has lost its appeal, just because I'm in such a hurry to end, just to hurry up and get to the end of this life. And I hope it happens today if I can't live my dreams of being a famous entertainer, or used to be a genius, a thinker. I wanted to be the world's greatest mathematician. At one time, my obsession was, at 13, I got into like bodybuilding, all that. I was going to be the world's strongest man. There was a point where I'd be world's greatest philosopher, great yogi, guru. Then I was, then it was going to be, some kind of novelist, screenwriter who stars in his own movies. So, as you can imagine, there'd be a lot of vicissitude in all of this. So anyway, finally, July 25th, 2022, a calamity takes place. I grab what I can, I have to leave, and that's all I'll say about that. And I went to a clinic where they got me into what's called a crisis center, so that I could kind of, wasn't going to be immediately homeless, drifting about. Okay, so I had 10 days there. I was happy for that, but nowhere else to go after that. So I was dropped off at the CAS Center in Phoenix. It's a shelter, the homeless shelter. So this place was absolutely evil. So I get there, and the staff and security are treating people like animals in ways that, unthinkable. The abuse that went on. There were a lot of homeless people of all different ages, and it was just a massive gathering. And this was at the time when they were building the outflow tents, so people who couldn't get into the shelter to have a bed, they would just start making their little tent houses on the roads around the building, around the area. So I didn't know at the time how bad it was, but I grew up in Phoenix, but not in these types of the downtown area, inner city. And it had changed a lot, I guess, not for the better. But yeah, races were mixed. It didn't matter like what race you were, as long as there were some scary elements to it, but I guess if you knew how to take care of yourself, you maybe weren't as scared of certain people. So there were, the race, like I said, Phoenix it's like mostly, it was Hispanic, but then just as many black people and white people, and then, it didn't really matter what race you were. And so there were a lot of really crazy like drug dealers there, and you would get in the Ramada area. This is where then you had like all these factions forming up in cliques. Drug dealers that kind of thing. then you would try to make money, so people would pimp out certain women would go to the streets, and then the handler would bring back to the overseer the money made. I saw one guy, it was a transgender prostitute. It was really crazy shit. But then you saw also pimps who had certain women basically as, terrified captives, and that was a very, these women would not speak to you. The guy was right there, and it was pretty awful. And then you would see a lot of people would shoot up fentanyl, and you'd smell it, they would smoke it. It's not like how the media presents it, where you go and touch of this and a million people will die. But yeah, you smelt it, and it was kind of unnerving. That's fentanyl. The person would just be smoking it right there, and that's what Phoenix was like. So as I started walking around, I would see, because I left the place basically right away, and then I came back, but I watched a lot of the police officers didn't do anything when they saw this stuff. Firefighters would turn their lights on to go through like a red light and stuff just to be funny. It was so despicable. People would show up with heat stroke, and I was like that, and I was just like, holy cow, and I would go to the side, started getting water for people, passing it out, and then there were these weird regulars there who they didn't like that very much, but I didn't care, so I went out that day. I got a bus pass. I went with the $10 I had. I got a pre-roll at a dispensary that was kind of a distance away. So I started walking back. The buses are done, and so I'm at this area at a bus stop, and I'm like, I'm waiting for a bus, right? So I'm gonna save some of the stories actually for maybe a comedic aspect video. I'll just skip that. So, but yeah, it was basically a lot of walking, walk. There's no way out of this homelessness. So anyway, I get to the shelter, and I get back to it. And then I found out through these people I had met in the Ramada area at the daytime, that the security had thrown away all of my sheet music, where they threw away all my bags. My 2 bags that I had the sheet music in it, which was like a lot of paper, a lot of writing, a lot of work. They had more of an intrinsic value than anything else. So they were throwing away a lot of people's bags just to have fun, I guess. And including people's medications, and basically there were also, I found out later, that there were murders that were taking place there daily.
You're a
They would
fucking
just
tiny
cover it
Tim,
up,
even though you're bigger than me.
They
rapidly learned. I'm just
get rid of them.
when he thought he made this
made
scary
noises made about,
crying.
not that
It's
anyone
like,
really
you
cared.
have mental
right?
problems.
So that morning after I left for good, because I figured there was absolutely no reason to be there, and this was just too evil. It was a concentration camp, and I could already see that happening. And then somebody mentioned they were going to start segregating the men and women, and then so that was when I was like, okay, interesting. And you know why, right? But anyway, I started walking, and just kind of, there was a lady that I left with, and that was a long 30-hour ordeal. Crazy am freaking exhausted. I haven't been able to find a place to sleep, because if you try to lay down in grass somewhere, the security in the area Phoenix will take you out. Bathrooms are blocked off like that. So they pretend it's about stopping people from overdosing in the bathroom. That's not what it's a genocide. So like the gas stations and stuff, they won't let you get a courtesy cup anymore, a lot of these places, and they won't, there's no water fountains, you can't get water, and the people are looking at you with pure discrimination and prejudice, and very few people, oftentimes, then you talk about those cases maybe, but yeah, you'll meet a few people who are funny, or you seem to have a lot in common. Of course, my advice is always, if the person's not trying to find a way to get off the streets, you need to run the line. So like collecting stuff in a shopping cart, for instance, they made a parody thing about that with the winter's wind or whatever. Not a good idea, not a good idea at all. I tried that one on the third night, and then all of a sudden a hailstorm. I had a cart that was useless at that point. I had to leave it, because then it was like you're walking down sidewalks in the middle of the night with this cart going, on residential areas. So the third night, that was when Circle K, 2 drug dealers, and you'll see them 24/7. Gas stations, CVS's are basically run by drug dealers, so they're not actually selling anything in the store. They might work for the store, but it's already been confiscated by cartel. So, a long story. I made a video about that called 2 drug dealers. So that night, yes. So a lot of people might be, if you watched the video after I punched out the second one, the other one was trapped behind the glass door, pissing himself basically. He was the employee, but when I left the area, one of the guys who got out of the truck was a meth dealer, and he told me that you need to go. You just like killed everybody, and I'm like, what are you talking? Okay. Oh, so I left, and then I started kind of walking across the street. There was like a 200 feet away. It was like a fence. Just like 4 feet high, but my logic was that if I run, either cops come, and it was self-defense, or am I guilty? And at the same time, I was like, okay, so cops aren't coming, there's somebody else is coming. And if these people, if I'm running around walking on site, they're gonna find me. That's that. So I laid down low behind this fence. It was just like, the store was right there. So like moments later, I hear it's like a car's going, and I hear the Mexican like, and then you hear a bunch of gunshots, and then the car went off again, so they're fuming, and I'm like, oh my, I'm fucking dead. So I pray, and then I grab these 2 big rocks in the dirt, because I'm just laying there, there's no way they didn't see me. So I'm looking, and then the rocks were intended that if they came at me, I'm not going with them. I'm not going to be tortured. I'm just going to say, you're going to have to shoot me. I'm going to fucking chuck a rocket. So that would deter that. Yeah, so 2 hours go by, because it had to be like 2, 3 in the morning when that happened. So all of a sudden, the sky's getting blue. People are starting to drive. One dude's walking down the street. I'm like, I look up, coast is clear, man. And yet there again, there was no way out. You're just walking in circles on the sidewalk. Nobody's going to save you. Nobody cares. Times then people would offer me their like boots, and then a couple people offered me a shirt. I had ditched the shirt at that fight after that thing because I thought it would be a way of identifying me. But so there was I'm just kind of going to random places, and every time somebody had a pot, I would they gave me the pot. I'd feel infinitely better for a while, and it was just this is cool. Yeah, the pot was everything to me in that state of mind. So it's day 4. Still no sleep, getting really loopy, and that was then going on that night, was when I encountered death, the incident where I talked about that in a video, gruesome altercation. So I had put the guy in critical condition. I found out because the judge told me at the nighttime, or when I was in the jail cell, safe cell for a moment, because I thought it would be better to say I was suicidal. So I was there for 30 minutes, and then there was a nice therapist, nurse lady, who had the sense to say, William, do you want to come out? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. I'm ready to join the population. And luckily, because of the safe cell, I was able to sleep during the whole booking processing part of that first jail experience in Maricopa. And it was like 10 hours of sitting in a chair where my ribs were just, and I'm bloody all over the face. I had a laceration on the back of my head, and but I got to sleep for like 20 minutes in the safe cell, which was wonderful. Then I got to get out of there. So the judge told me I was charged with aggravated assault and critical damage. That was what the guy came after me, charged me. Big old maniac. I punched him right in the throat, top of the windpipe, the trachea, not the voice box, that's the lower part. So I guess he was in for a very interesting experience. At first I felt bad for a long time, but his buddies did to me, and then given the nature of this guy, he was going to do something much worse to me, and I had no sympathy for that. He started out 30 feet away at least, maybe, and he came within, I'm 5'7", so for my arm to land in his throat like that, he got real close, real fast. Anyway, I like to believe, even though it seems strange, but if there are so-called guardian angels, or God had a reason for me to be alive after that he was maybe, I was meant to throw that punch. Something kind of spurred me to do it. But no, there was no psychosis, there was none of that shit. But yeah, I mean, I had been up a long time, and I mean, it was not a good place to be. So that was there where I was in jail for 40 days, and and then I got out, and I had no idea where I was going, but I met up, there was this homeless girl who, we walked together, blah, blah, blah. She was afraid to stay by herself with some overpass in some area, and then I was well recuperated from everything, and she had a bad meth problem, so the whole time, by the way, when I was homeless, you think, why didn't you just call somebody, like a case manager or something from a clinic or something, like, one, it's a revolving door, but two, was that, I wasn't able to use a phone. All my stuff was gone. And because you wanted to sit around the homeless shelter and start dying of heat stroke and exhaustion and starvation like those people were. Because there were a lot of them who were like from Kenya, refugee people who didn't speak any English, and they were just sitting there wasting away. There were a lot of people who did die of just laying there. And I was like, I'm gonna die trying to find a way out. I'd rather die than laying around this fucking place waiting for a bed that's not gonna do me any good. Sorry, where I'm at, it's really, really cold. I was straight walking home. That's what I thought it was a good moment to. But the day after, night out of jail, one night, there were some young women on a Circle K, a different area, really nice. Somebody even gave me $20, that kind of thing. So I got to shave, that kind of thing, using the hose, the store hose. You was filling it up with a bucket, and then had some dishwashing soap from some other homeless man, and yeah, it's crazy. I sign in, I walk. The girl had found her drug dealer, so I left. I'm like, all right, take care, you know. So I end up walking where the court told me to sign in to like I had to take like anger management, so I had to go to like some counseling thing, part of the plea bargain. Again, they don't care what really happened. They just want to make money. That's all that is. The courts in Arizona are really fucking dirty. You wouldn't believe it. So I finally make them to my destination, and I'm like, oh my god, wow, this is it. So they call somebody I knew, and they brought me to this place. There's another crisis thing. I thought I'm gonna go back there and then find like maybe a halfway house or something to go to. And then I couldn't get in because the insurance had lapsed. But anyway, somebody who worked there was nice, kind enough, human enough, spiritual enough to ask me, the only place he could think of, it was a place in Prescott. And he's like, do you want to go to a rehab in Prescott? And rehab was not really on my mind, but I was like, if it's better than walking around in hell, yeah. He paid $40 for the shuttle. I got on it at the airport, and I was dropped off at Prescott at 2 a.m. And the driver of this rehab was supposed to pick me up. He wasn't there. So 2 cop girls show up, and they're like, you can't be here, it's loitering. I'm like, oh my god, all right. So I start walking. It's like 10 hours go by. It's like early noon, and I'm like, this is hell. This is all over again. It's just in a new city, and it's going on like day 3 again. And my feet are like in pain again. Just like in Phoenix, right? Before the arrest. So I go into this thrift shop, and it's run by like a army veteran dude. And he hooks me up with like clothes and a sleeping bag and stuff. And then I'm telling him my story. And then all of a sudden, he's like, hey, when I was leaving, this girl says she can get you into a rehab. She was just a girl, customer who walked in there. And I'm like, oh yeah? She worked for the damn rehab. How crazy is that? Alright, anyway,